Ever hear the expression that someone is full of themselves? It means conceited. And that's no compliment. A lady I knew, or know, said of her rather arrogant husband once, "I think John and I are in love with the same man." Not too early for that one, huh? Okay. The person who is full of himself has an exaggerated sense of their own importance. They take themselves too seriously. Perhaps maybe you know someone like that. Some pastors were like that in the good old days, and some pop stars are like that today. Arrogant, pompous, vain, all puffed up. What this expression really means is that the person who is full of himself just doesn't have room for anyone else. Jesus knew this was a problem for the chief priests and the elders of the people in his day. He told them this story about the two sons. Now, the more you analyze the story, the more confusing it becomes. You might conclude that neither of the two sons really did what their father wanted them to do. But that misses the point that Jesus was trying to make. Whenever you don't do what God desires, it always makes God happy when you realize your mistake and fix it. Changing your mind, having a change of heart, changing your behavior is always a good thing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Who has never had to change their mind about anything or admit that they made a mistake? God is always pleased when we change something about ourselves that needs changing, even late in life. In this parable, the son who at first said no, but then did what his father wanted him to do, had the ability to change his mind, to change his heart. He wasn't so full of himself, so stuck on himself, that he couldn't reconsider his decision. A proud person doesn't change their mind because it would mean admitting they made a mistake. They always think there's no need for change on their part. Arrogant behavior always involves desperately trying to hold on to control, to self-image, to personal comfort, for fear of giving in or giving something up. Pride prevents a person from growing personally or spiritually. If you get stuck on yourself, you also get stuck in your own tired way of looking at life. If you can't admit you're wrong, even when you know you are, you rule out the possibility of seeing things differently, any possibility of changing. Pride blinds people so they can't really see what they're doing. Pride can actually kill you. Someone who refuses to see himself as having a problem and won't get help can go to an early grave. Pride probably kills more marriages and friendships than anything else. When things start to go wrong in a relationship, one of the parties usually starts blaming the other. The other one fights back, and it goes downhill from there. Pride also kills our relationship with God. In contrast to all this, we hear the classic description in Jesus' second reading today as the man who humbled himself to accept suffering and death, even though he was equal to God. St. Paul gives some very good advice when he says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as more important than yourself." In other words, the remedy for pride is a dose of good old-fashioned humility. How do you think you come across to others? How do you think you show up at the party? If you think you might be a little too full of yourself, well, try emptying yourself a little more. That's humility. Learning to be receptive, possessing the ability to receive. Anything that is to receive must be empty. Humility is actually the secret of a happy life. Anyone in a 12-step program learns that. A person who has been humbled knows that to be full of himself is a dead end. Just as for Jesus, emptying yourself out makes it possible to be filled up with the presence and the power of God. God, who is good, and all the time. I agree with you.